That's where you're going to be typing your questions, and then we're going to answer them live. So anything today that has to do with soldering and pressing, right? That's what we're going on. So just ask your questions in there and we'll hopefully be able to answer them live on air. There's a chat function too. That's more for side comments and things for off air. But if you want your question answered live on air, click the Q&A question. And notice we had a delay on our recording, Bo. So I'll just get started again with what the episode today is. Episode 4 is the ProPress Challenge. So what that is, what is the ProPress Challenge? Well, can you out-sweat ProPress? That's the challenge. We want to see what technique, what method of joint and contour tubing is going to be faster and more efficient for you out in the field where you can actually save labor, be more efficient, be more profitable, right? So that's what we're doing. So what is this challenge? Because I'm going to be challenging all you on this show as well. So everybody on the show, I'm challenging you to submit your ProPress Challenge video. So what we're doing is I have a 3/4 inch assembly back here. So my tubing is already cut. I cut them to 4-inch length. So when you start the challenge, the tubing's already cut, but you have to ream, you have to deburr, because that's good industry practice, right? You have to clean the tubing, you have to clean the fitting, you have to add the flux, right? You have to wipe the excess flux, all good industry practices. And then you're gonna pop that torch and you're gonna burn. And you're gonna do 2 fittings, 2 3/4 inch fittings, whether it's 90s, couplings, 45s. I don't care which ones you submit on in a video, but I want to be 3/4 inch so it's all, the same, all relevant, all fair, right? Because the winner is going to get called out online, right? And we're going to send you some really cool Viega package full of Viega swag and different things like that. So it'll be really fun. So to submit your videos, I want you to check out any of Viega LLC's social media platforms. So that's going to be Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, anything like that. Any platform you choose that you're a part of, submit your videos on those platforms. You got 2 weeks from today to submit those videos. And Bo and I are going to choose the winner. And how we're going to choose it, it's not just all about speed. Obviously, we want to show off your skills and see how fast you go, but we're going to look at technique as well. And we're going to look at some creativity. So we want some creative videos. We want to see your techniques, your tips and tricks, and see if you can out-sweat ProPress, which will be really fun. And I'm ready to accept that challenge as well, Bo. I got my assembly all here. I got everything set up, everything that I need. So let me get going, and then I'll tell you when to go, man. Make sure
awesome, Troy. We're ready. I got my handy-dandy wristwatch here ready to time you. We're not using any fancy Olympic timers here. This is just, going to use a wristwatch, old school.
Nice.
Old school. It fits with my age.
It's actually wear a wristwatch.
It's not even digital. Like, I can actually read time. It's amazing.
Nice. That's amazing. All right, I got my torch turned on there. I want this to be fair. I got everything set up. Let me put my gloves on because everything has been baking in the sun. Normally I don't wear gloves, but got these nice Viega gloves, so I might as well put these clean gloves and get them dirty. So I got this. Let's see. All right, Bo.
Ready whenever you are, Troy. Are you ready to go? All right, let's sit. Ready, set, go.
Go.
All right. Awesome job, Troy. Just rock it out there. Okay, I'm just checking to see if anybody has any questions. Now, Troy's getting ready. He's using a rigid cup reamer to prep his pipe ends. Really fast way to do it, especially when you get on the larger diameter piping. You really need that cup reamer. It'll go up to 2-inch. If you're using a dry cut saw, which is way faster than a displacement cutter when you're using large diameter stuff, really makes it good. It's a good idea to have that cup reamer handy because you get a lot of burrs when you're using a dry cut saw. Not a chop saw. I don't recommend using chop saws. They leave a lot of abrasive behind. It's not recommended. You want to use a dry cut saw, something with teeth, carbide teeth. Troy's flying there, even with the Viega gloves on. I can't use the Viega gloves. I got to use thin gloves, but
can't use them. I can't use them. They're messing me up.
You're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. What's going on here? We need to pin your video, and I'm trying to pin it, and I'm not sure why it's not. Sorry, Troy. Still timing.
That's all right, man. Hey, that's good. It's all about the timing. When I pop that torch, I probably should mute my video as well. Oh, rookie move there. Rookie move there.
Yeah, I dropped the flux brush yesterday.
Did you?
That's like going to the barber and dropping dropping the scissors or a comb, right? You can't touch
Seriously. Yeah, now you can't
Yeah.
touch it. Man. It's all right.
All right,
I'll have to redeem myself in another video. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
All right, why don't you keep talking? I'm going to mute myself,
right.
Troy.
Yep. Here we go. Perfect. I got all set up here. Bam. All right. That's all shooting. I've done this in the past. You know, when you're flying like this, you know, sometimes not realistic. Sometimes you lift yourself all the time. But I mean, if you can do a 3/4 assembly like this in 3 to 4 minutes, that's great production. Of course, weather dependent, whether I'm hungover. Look at this. We're cooking now, man. This is fun. Done.
Okay, 255, Troy.
Oh, man, that is not my best, but that's great. I'll take it.
You know, we're having fun here today, so I just want to try something. If somebody could type into Q&A, let me know if I've got Troy's video pinned right now. So you should just see Troy even with me talking. And I'll check the Q&A.
Nope. They're saying nope.
Hey, well, we're still working on it. It worked earlier when we were doing our test webinar, so I'm not sure why that's not working out the way we wanted it to.
Hey, thank God I'm a better plumber than I am with technology. That's all I'm saying. I'm going to stick to what
Tell
I'm good
me
at.
about it.
I'm going to stick to what I'm good at.
Tell me about it.
So then the one thing you can't always forget, you know, I always tell you got to wipe your joints, everybody. You know, so again, I try to do this challenge to show good industry practice of soldering. You know, reaming, you know, that's for the flow inside a pipe, right? Deburring, you know, that's so you can get the tubing into the fitting properly. You don't have all that, you know, debris that's in there, right? So you want to ream, deburr, and that's going to be no different than with ProPress. So ProPress, I want to ream and deburr as well. Reaming, again, that's the flow in the pipe. Deburrs, because I don't want to tear that sealing on it. So when I go ahead and do ProPress in a little bit, you know, I'm going to show those same techniques. I got to make sure I cut the tubing and make sure I ream it. I got to deburr it. I got to mark the insertion depth, and I got to make that press. So obviously I'm eliminating a lot of steps that you just saw here because I don't have to flux, right? And that flux is an acid. So that's why you want to wipe your joints when you're done, because you don't want this to start to continue to corrode. That acid will corrode the pipe. But the reason why I use that flux is if anybody's ever painted cars. So I went to school for auto body before I became a plumber. And when you're trying to paint bare metal, you got to put a self-etching acid on there and then spray it with primer. So the primer sticks to that metal with that self-etching acid. And then you can put your paint on there. That flux acts the same way. You clean that tubing, you clean that fitting, so that flux, that acid, can allow that solder to adhere and join those two pieces together. So that's why all those steps I wanted to show to make sure we're following good industry practice on every joining method that you do. So, all right, Bo, I mean, are you up for the challenge, man?
I think I'm up for the challenge. There's one thing I wanted to point out, Troy, is that Troy didn't touch that assembly until the solder was set. So full solid. You don't want to be wiping your solder off because you can move a joint, you can create a crack, but you do want that flux wiped off. So really good point there. And I don't know, Troy, can you just go grab that with a bare hand and pick that up and start working on it?
Nope,
No?
that is hot.
So you're still waiting for that to cool. Wonder how many solder joints we could do while that's cooling down.
I'll let that cool right down, you know what I mean?
So let me get this straight. So I got 3 pieces of copper here, and I got 2 3/4 inch elbows. This is what I'm doing today.
That's your challenge, man. That's what I'm challenging you to do, to put you to see how, if you beat me or you can beat the competition out there.
Okay. Well, I'm changing the challenge today. So we're going to sweat up some 2-inch. So I've got a cameraman today, which is cool because he's going to get in tight, and we're going to see how this goes. So I'm going to mute out. I'm going to stop my video. We'll be back in a second. fire up that torch. We'll see how long this takes.
Oh, man. All right, just to be clear, everybody else, your challenge is still 3/4 out there, unless you want to get creative like Bo. That'll be fun. But, you know, to time it, you know, Bo's always trying to step it up and, you know, outdo me, huh? So 2-inch. So that's good. It's good to see. I want to see how long it takes to actually do a 2-inch connection, because you know what? ProPress is going to be the same every single time, right? To pull that trigger, it's 4 to 7 seconds, right? That's it. To sweat all different sizes, that is going to take different time. It's going to take, you know, different amount of solder. It's going to take, you know, it's 2 ounces of flux for every pound of solder that you use. So you could actually sit down and do a cost comparison of what this is going to take you to do joints versus, you know, solder versus ProPress. Oh, that's looking mean, man. That's looking good. All right, you tell me when you're ready to go. Let me get my timer up here. I'm going to use my laptop. I don't wear a watch, so just got the stopwatch. Okay, here we go. Can you hear me? Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. All right, doing the same thing. I mean, think if this was a larger fittings too, 3-inch, right? 4-inch, different things like that. So all different sizes. So what I was talking about earlier is I was talking about when I sit down and actually do a job and I'm project managing it or I'm bidding it or doing something like that, I'm looking at the cost, right? Oh, we got something that says we can't see Bo. Oh, let's see here. Let me swipe to the left. Can we not see Bo? He's muted right now. Don't worry, technical difficulty. Share content. Oh, there we go.
Does it
Okay,
help
he's
if I
unmuted
unmute?
now. Yeah, there we go. That might help.
That's
you know, just unmute.
Rookie mistake there. I'm not sure why that's doing that. When we tested earlier, we had the ability to pin videos, and all of a sudden I don't. So
now we can. That's fine. That's fine. It says they say they can see you now. So if you talk and things
I'm
like
sorry
that,
for that, people.
you.
I'm sorry if you can see me. Just try not to etch the image in your mind. Look away. I still have to ream this pipe. I've got displacement cutter pipe here, so my sandcloth is cleaning up the ends really well. But I'm going to use my cup reamer on these guys on the inside. Okay, and this guy is good. I got a nasty burr on this guy. In the interest of time, I'm gonna grab that piece. Probably won't even fit in the fitting now. And pull that burr out of there. Okay, now flux. And we don't want a lot of flux. We just want a nice thin coating. It takes a lot longer to flux a 2-inch fitting than it does to flux a
Do you ever get, you know, busted on by the old school guys on the field training you, being like, hey, Picasso, way to paint that fitting, right? You put too much flux on
Yep.
this, you're taking your time. They're picking on you, calling you Picasso all day long.
My dad was famous for that. Would have thought I painted the Sistine Chapel as much as he called me. I know that was Michelangelo, but sorry, wrong history reference there. That was really bad. At least I knew who we were talking about. See that? Got a little brush burr on there. That'll make a flux pocket. So we want to leave that to the side. Make sure we get that off of there, which I did. Clock is running. Going as fast as I can. Takes a while to make a big joint.
So right now you're at 3 minutes and 15 seconds.
I'm still fluxing. I can't believe that there's no critics out there firing away critical comments like, oh, I would have fluxed the fittings first, or I would have done this. It's all right. That's coming. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, you know that's coming when this is uploaded to YouTube. next week, right? And then we're gonna get the multiple viewers. You know, they're gonna start slamming the comments, man. I can't wait. I like that stuff because you know what? Sometimes their techniques and their comments, whether they're bust on you or not, it makes you a better learner, right? It makes you a better installer, right? That's how we learn.
Absolutely. Actually, I'm not even going to insert that in. So, last piece here. My flux is cold. It didn't sit in the sun long enough. It's making it slow. You got to put your flux in the sun if you want fast flux. This is the slow flux. And this is right-handed flux. I didn't have any left-handed flux. So, full insertion. And we are, oops, I missed a fitting. See that? Another rookie mistake. I feel all this pressure.
And you thought you were sweating from the sun, man. You're sweating because there's a bunch of eyes on you right now, pushing you, making sure you do this perfectly.
Take the heat. I can take the heat just like you, Troy. You know it.
Oh yeah.
We go way back. It's all good.
Hey, we're getting comments. People are like, "You guys are rusty." We've been out of the field too long. They're saying.
Hey.
Oh man.
That probably came from Ricky. Let's hope we have enough gas. This tank that we had another tank today. Tank had a bad packing. Leaking acetylene is extremely dangerous. So I will tell you that we couldn't use that tank. I got about a quarter tank here. We should be okay.
Oh, I'm waiting to see that thing run. Oh, don't do it. Making the drip.
There's a flux run there. That's unfortunate. I'll hear about that tomorrow. little drip down there. That's it. Torch off. Not the
Oh,
prettiest. I've seen better.
I can't wait until your own crew bust on you tomorrow a little bit for that drip, you know? 8 minutes and 37 seconds to complete those 2-inch joints.
Well, that matches I had yesterday. So that's not too bad. And that one joint, so I doubled my time. Not really.
Yeah, no, like I said, today wasn't my best. Mine the other day, you know, just to set up and to test to see if I was rusty or still had it. I was averaging 37.5 seconds per joint. So I think I did like that assembly in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, where today I was a little over, right? So again, the inconsistencies, let's call it, right? It's not going to be that steady pace every single time when you're soldering. So it depends on, who's actually going to be doing that solder job, right? Who, is it my first year apprentice? Is it my 30-year master, right? So it depends on the experience, the size, like I said, the amount of solder you're using, flux you're using, type of cleaning cloth you're using. There's other materials out there. There's other tools of the trade. We were showing off some, reamers and deburrs. There's other tools of the trade out there to speed you up as well for prep time and things like that, right? Now, I'm really, really happy, Bo, that you busted out the B tank, though. Listen, I've used those little MAP gas pop torches, and I know we get beat up. I know I'm going to get beat up for making this comment because a lot of us use them. I have one. But I really am a big fan of the turbo torch, the B tank, having my setup, having my different tips for different sizes and controlling my flame. To me, better setup, more professional, but hey, so I'm glad you didn't bust out the pop torch for this.
So anybody on the call that's on the webinar today, if you can type in the Q&A, the first one to get this right, if you can define what MC tank, B tank, and a P tank, like a big tall welding tank, stands for, we'll chuck you out a Viega t-shirt. There you go, challenge laid down just on the webinar today. So Troy, somebody asked about bending the solder over, and that the amount of solder that you bent over would be the amount used to fill the joint. Now I can tell you, I actually was certified or trained by the CDA in their soldering and brazing course. That's how I learned to solder the right way. And I realized I've been doing it wrong for so long when I first took that class many, many years ago. And it's a tough class, and you have to culminate in finishing up a 4-inch joint. And so what's really interesting about that is you'd be amazed at the amount of solder it takes to fill up a joint. And much like brazing or welding, you're going to keep your rod straight. That gives you the ability to push that fill in. Capillary action, when you heat up that fitting socket, it's going to expand capillary action. It's going to draw the molten fill in, but it takes a lot of solder to fill a joint. So again, to Troy's point, he's drilled this home over and over again. You wouldn't consider buying a car without your fuel economy, right, Troy? So I don't know if you want to comment on that.
No, absolutely right, because that's the question all the time. That's a rule of thumb. So when you bend that over, I do that too. I bend it over. It's a rule of thumb that, certain, you learn out in the trades, right? You learn that. But you're right. You learn from the Copper Development Association the right way to do things. You're supposed to keep that solder straight like a brazing rod, right? Because you're trying to push that solder into that joint so you get full penetration through, right? If they were to cut that joint open, you're supposed to have solder all the way filling that entire cup and nothing more. You don't want it to come out the other side, because that creates a lip, which causes turbulent flow in the fitting system, which can cause erosion, corrosion, and pinhole leaks, right? So there's an art and a science, absolutely. Everybody's always like, oh, there's a skill, there's an art. There is, if you're taking it that serious, right? And you should be if you're going to be doing these systems. So that is a rule of thumb. They say, hey, if it's half-inch fitting, you need half-inch, a little half-inch piece of solder, right? If it's 3/4, it's 3/4. That's a rule of thumb. But there are guidelines from PHCC, MCAA, and even the CDA of how much you need. And you can actually sit down and bid a job based on the size and the amount of fittings you have. And that's what I said earlier. It's 2 ounces of flux for 1 pound. A 1 pound of solder is a roll. Typically, those rolls are 1 pound rolls. So 1 pound of solder, 2 ounces of flux. I can easily figure that out. So if I know how much solder I'm going to use for all those fittings, I can figure out how much flux I need. Of course, I need fitting brushes and cleaning cloth and things like that. A lot of consumables that could be a variable. So when you're bidding a job, you're actually kind of doing an estimate. You kind of know the rough exact, and you go over, you do an allowance for anything that may be extra lost. I always joke, borrowed for side work, things like that. All the solder that's dripping on the ground, that's like, oh, there's a dime. Oh, there's a dime, right? Because a good roll of solder these days, $30 a roll, right? So You know, when everybody says they look at ProPress, they look at soldering, they say, hey, soldering is going to be cheaper. It's obvious because look at the cost of that tool. And I'm like, well, hang on. If I look at this tool, if I look at the RP340, let me grab this right here. This RP340, if I buy this kit and I get the kit and it comes with 2 batteries, a charger, the tooling platform, and copper ProPress jaws 1/2 to 2 inch, list price is $3,400. But you could do 42,000 presses with this before you have to spend any more money, right? So you're going to do 42,000 presses. At 42,000, you get it recalibrated. So I just did the math of that, right? So 1/2 to 2 inch jaws, doesn't matter the size, right? It does 1/2 to 2 inch, 42,000 presses. So if I take that list price and divide that out by the 42,000, so 3,400 divided by 4, that's 8 cents per press. We're the lowest overall installed cost when I look at that. So the upfront investment, the sticker shock might be like, whoa. But when you sit down and put the pen to the paper and start bidding jobs and looking at the math, you're going to spend more money in the soldering aspect of things than investing in a ProPress system and a press tool like the RP340 from Rigid. And I did the same math for solder joints. I did 42,000 solder joints. I sat it down, and we showed this in class when we do in-person training, right? We have a whole slide on it that I sat down. I did the math, and I did, you know, like 10,000 1/2 inch, I think, and 12,000. You know, I broke it up between 1/2, 3/4, and 1. And I sat down and figured out how much solder I was going to need, flux, you know, filling my B tank. Most of us already have the tanks. So my math only included filling the B tank, which is cheaper than buying one, right? I think you buy one right now, full setups, it's $158 to buy the tank that's full. If you just get it filled, it's $58, right? Now, again, prices change, just like $30 a roll. I'm in New Hampshire. That's what it costs me. You might be somewhere else, cost you different. So put your pen to the paper and figure out what's going to cost you, because those 42,000 joints of solder, 1/2, 3/4, and 1, looking at it, breaking it up that way, it was going to cost me over 23 cents per joint. So we're the lowest overall installed cost. The fittings are more money, no doubt about that. ProPress fittings are 3, 5, 6, 8 times the cost of a solder joint, but it's the overall. You got to look at the whole picture.
Awesome. We got some answers on
oh, nice.
some of our questions there, but it's still not correct. One of the answers is wrong. So just chucking that out there. We got another question about when people can come see us live and in person. And
so
that's a good question.
Bo, hey, you know what? Bo, you answered. I've been talking. You go ahead. You answer that, man.
I knew that was coming.
I put you on the spot because I'm
going
to throw out a random date, but you know, go ahead and tell them what's really going on.
No date as of yet, but I will tell you this: if you want to come see us, we want you to let your Viega sales representative, factory salespeople know, and let your wholesalers know, and we will work on that together as a team. I can tell you we're working in conjunction with state, local government. We're working in conjunction with our environmental health and safety department. We are taking, which is right here at Viega, we're taking the necessary precautions to be ready to host customers back in our seminar centers, which we're really pumped to do. We love doing this, but man, we really want to see you. We want to hang out. We want to break bread. We want to train you. We want to hang out and get in the trenches and so forth. So we're working on all those steps. I can tell you that we're preparing in advance of that because we're expecting that people are just going to say, hey, you know what, we want to go. So if you're interested in coming out for training, you want to put a group together, I would suggest start having that conversation with your Viega factory sales representative, your wholesale partners, so forth and so on, and let it be known, and we'll do our best to expedite that process. But it is in the works right now. Again, things are opening up, but I can't give an exact date because we just don't know. But know that Troy and I can speak for Troy and all the trainers, we can't wait to see you. We won't be able to hug you, but we'll want to. Maybe you don't want to hug me. I can understand why.
Yeah, seriously, we're going to want to. I mean, that's what we do best. And we're going to continue to do the show as well, even when we open up. Bo and I are going to do this show indefinitely. Same time, same bat channel, all that stuff. But we are so excited to get people back in the seminar centers because you get to do this hands-on, in our workshop, in our trenches. You get to actually put Mega Press together, ProPress together, PEX Press together, Radiant systems together. We want you to get your hands dirty and put our stuff in and learn, best industry practices on everything. So, we're excited, and we'll keep everybody up to date when we know. We just haven't been making any announcements because, as Bo said, everything's behind the scenes. Is that the fire truck for the fire watch you did not get, right? Did you get a fire watch and burn permit
I have
for
my
what you
fire
were doing?
Fire extinguisher right there within 5 foot. That was not me. That was probably somebody else soldering, but not me.
That was perfect timing. That was awesome. I mean, it's funny. We get to that too, because that's the other thing that I don't add up in my math, because not everybody has to do this. But if you're doing a commercial job, right, you're going to be doing a burn permit and a fire watch. So added steps. Now, if I'm going in, and we joke with Bo sometimes, I know Ricky does, he calls me a house mouse and things like that, because he's done some houses. I'd have too. I started in houses and worked to commercial industrial, but when I was residential, you didn't have to pull that burn permit and fire watch back then. In Massachusetts nowadays, yes, you do. So you got to take a PHCC HotWorks certification class. You got to have that certificate number handy when you go pull a burn permit. Then you got to do a fire watch after. So it's all these steps that add up that I didn't put my math earlier, right? So now that adds up even more time and money to do hot work, right? So, and there's a lot of applications that have placards now that say no hot work allowed. So what is my option? So now press is going to be safest for you, right? Breathing in those fumes. I wasn't wearing a mask today. I never did. I wore safety glasses because I've got stuff in my eye. I hate when metal shavings or solder goes in. Worst day ever. That's, I'll break an arm, cut my arm off. Anything in my eye, I hate. So I wear safety glasses, but, I never wore a mask. And that's the thing. Those are toxic fumes, actually. And, so maybe I should have, right? Like somebody's saying, maybe I should have stopped smoking years ago and now I got lung cancer. There have been cases and friends of mine that their fathers have gotten lung cancer, and they the doctors blamed it on breathing in the flux, the fumes. They were welders, they were plumbers, so the breathing in those fumes, toxic, right? So, you gotta be safe there as well. So ProPress eliminates all that.
Really good points, Troy. Really good points. It's interesting. I didn't realize that it had gotten to that level in Massachusetts, but a lot of this fire watch, burn permits, fire safety stems down from industrial installations. So very hard to spark a flame in any industrial setting, be it welding, brazing, soldering, extremely difficult. So they're looking for things that are actually intrinsically safe. And, amongst all the other things of just getting set up, managing all your PPE, so forth and so on. So a lot of that stems down from industrial and all the way down into commercial and then residential plumbing, and that's where it ends up. So people have to remember that. The other thing is you got to think about insurance. Every time you strike a torch, if you start a fire, you have a claim. Guess what? It's going to be more expensive next year for you to insure if you can even maintain your policy. So it's really important to think of those things when we're talking about press technology and why press technology really solves a lot of problems just with the logistics of going to work, like I just demoed over there. Like Troy demoed in front of you, and again, so many other reasons beyond that, just ease to train, simple platform, so forth and so on. The list goes on and on. So yeah, we're obviously got a lot of skin in the game, and we're really proud of Press Systems, but truth be told, I know that I can speak for myself and probably Troy when I say that we had to go back in the field today and all we had to do was solder, we wouldn't be so psyched about it after going this way for so long.
No, it's true. For me, I'm busting out the torch only when I need to. What I mean by need to is, Viega offers a lot of fitting configurations, but for one example, for me on a job that I was doing was commercial, and I'm doing the Sloan valves, right? So everything was ProPress. You drop down, ProPress 90, you stub out. You have to sweat that low profile bushing on there, right? That you thread the Sloan flush valve on. So that's the only part that I was soldering. So sometimes you have to. So you need to understand all the different joining methods. So when we teach trade school kids, so Bo and I and our team, we welcome trade schools in and we train them. We don't just train them on ProPress and try to brainwash them. We actually have an entire setup and teach them how to thread. We teach them how to solder. We teach them how to braze. We teach grooving. So we teach other joining methods as well because we're contractors. We're licensed plumbers, licensed pipe fitters, and we want the kids to understand all the joining methods. And then they can see the features and benefits of all those different joining methods. And there's a reason why you use the things you do and why you do it. So for us, yes, I love ProPress. I mean, I've even repiped my house in ProPress copper just because I could, right? I just wanted to see it, right? Plus I had some old gate valves and glow valves I didn't like, so wanted to rip those out. But I love ProPress copper. Using as much as possible on anything that I'm doing or did in the past. I've been using ProPress copper since 2005. First job was a TGI Fridays restaurant in Nashville, New Hampshire on Amherst Street. So all Viega ProPress copper in there. And then from there, I've done multiple restaurants and Lowe's and Home Depots and other commercial jobs and, pharmacies. I've pretty much done every Walgreens and CVS you see in Southern New Hampshire. So, and that's all Viega ProPress. So I love it. It's just safer, easier, faster, and I'm consistent. Because like I said, I come in hungover. I'm the same pace every time with ProPress. Doesn't matter. If I'm in a good mood, bad mood, rainy day, sunny day, I can stay consistent no matter what. And my first year apprentice and my 30-year master can stay consistent as well.
You got to stop drinking that 12% beer, Troy. That's what's doing it.
These new craft beers, man, they are just, man, I love them. But I can't even go back to my Bud Heavy sometimes because it feels like it's drinking water. When those used to be, diesels, right? Like Budweiser 5.0, that's a diesel. Now all of a sudden you got 9.8, 10.8, 12, 13% craft beers. They're good though. I love it.
So a couple questions, Troy. One is, and I'm going to turn this around so we can kind of talk about this, but one question is, how close can you solder to a press connection, and vice versa? How close can you press to a solder connection? I'll take the second one because I got a good example here, but if you want to touch on that, because it's a common thing you're going to run into. You're going to walk into a building where maybe you still solder and you got press connections in there, or maybe you are walking in on a building where there's solder and you're a press guy.
So if you're walking in, and I think Bo said he was going to answer the second question if I'm not mistaken, but if you're walking in on a job and you're a solder, if you're going to sweat, that's what you do. You're not equipped to do ProPress. You can actually get, fairly close, but because it's hot, you want to be 3 pipe diameters away. So if I have to solder near an existing ProPress fitting, that's going to be 3 pipe diameters away. So not too bad. Obviously, you want to control your flame. That's somebody that's doing a good job. It kind of covers everybody. That's why we say it in our manual, because I've had guys be like, oh, I got closer. Oh, I'm going to go farther away. On average, right, this is the average individuals that knows how to solder, and we say right in our manual, 3 pipe diameters away, because it's roughly about, I believe, 600 degrees Fahrenheit, if I'm not wrong, to do soldering. But now brazing's a different story. Brazing, you're 1600 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. Brazing, you're going to be 9 times the pipe diameter away, right? So again, with soldering, if it's a 1-inch fitting, you're 3 inches away face to face. And if it's brazing and it's a 1-inch braze joint, you're going to be 9 inches away. So that's what that takes. And then, Bo, I think you said you were going to answer the question. Yeah, follow up.
Yeah, follow up to that. So if you're running in on a system where you've got existing solder here, and obviously we've got, these are fine solder joints I'm confident they'll hold. That little drip there is killing me. I'm going to have to knock that off later when nobody's looking. But anyway, it's cool enough to touch now. It's still really hot. Part of that's because it's sitting in the sun, but cool enough to touch. But if I was pressing on this, okay, one thing to know is 2-inch and down, we have a hexagonal deformation in the press technology. That's a function of the jaw. So you're going to get that hex-shaped press when you make a complete press. And that's going to deform the tube and the fitting. And really important, because Troy's going to demo that and he'll show you that. That's what provides that mechanical strength on a 2-inch and down size fitting. Above 2-inch, go to 2.5 through 4, we have a mechanical grip ring. But in this case, we got a deformation. So if we're deforming the tube, we run the risk of cracking the solder fitting, and that's what we don't want. So if you download one of our installation manuals for our press systems, or a ProPress installation manual, or one of our ProPress pocket guides, we have a chart in there that tells you what the minimum distance is. And you'll see that when you get up into the large diameter sizes, 2.5 through 4, you can actually be closer than some of the smaller sizes because they don't deform the tube. But as a rule of thumb, the largest space, which is actually 2-inch, largest gap that we want you to be from that fitting, is 3/4 of an inch. So as a rule of thumb, and from personal experience, I can tell you 3/4 of an inch is a good number. If you need to press closer to an existing solder fitting, get out the chart, look in the chart, see how close you can go. But I can tell you the one variable there is you don't know who soldered that connection. If you don't know who soldered that connection and they did a bad job, okay, they didn't get full penetration, and you're really tight up against that solder joint, you could crack the joint, and now you're back taking that joint off and starting over again. Plus, you just blew a press fitting you probably can't use. So keep that in mind. So I tell you, 3/4 of an inch is a rule of thumb. Check the chart if you want to get closer. I think you can get as close as 1/4 inch for 1/2 inch tubing, but then it goes up from there into some crazy measurements like 7/16 and 5/8. Anybody's got time to remember that. Just remember 5/8 or excuse me, 3/4, and you're good to go, you know? And that's true for your 2.5 through 4. But if you need to get closer, you can check the chart. If you can, stay as far as you can away. If you got a press next to a 4-inch flange or something like that, you don't want to crack that flange, you can get 6 inches away. That's probably a good idea. But 3/4 of an inch is the rule of thumb that we typically say in training. So.
No, it's good. I personally have never cracked a joint, but I follow the rule of thumb and I follow the guidelines in our installation manual for Viega ProPress system. So, you know, definitely follow those and you'll be all right. You can get fairly close, but as Bo said, you don't know who the last guy was, you know, but it's away from that bead of solder, right? Not just the face of the fitting, how much, you know, you don't want to press onto a bead. You don't want to press onto a drip of solder, right? So if you had a drip running down, you got to clean that up, right? Normally you don't need to clean. You're going to see that when I demo ProPress, you don't need to clean the tubing like you do for a solder system. Now, again, not in our manual, but one thing that's a best industry practice, when I go in on a service job and I look at how dirty, dusty, oily, grit and grime that copper is, I am buffing it up with some Scotch-Brite. So I am cleaning it like I'm getting ready to start, but just the tubing lightly, nothing crazy. That's on service. But brand new copper tubing off your truck, I got bundles sitting here in my garage right now, 3/4, 1 inch, 1/2, and 1.25 inches. That I'm just going to cut and press onto. I'm not clean. It's brand new bundles of copper. There's nothing wrong with it. I've handled it properly. I didn't drag it across the parking lot or anything like that. It hasn't been sitting in the mud. So brand new, clean copper from the wholesaler, you know, off the back of your truck in your shop. You don't have to clean it up for ProPress, but service work, just check it out and make sure it is just smooth and not dirty. There's even service work I've cut in, pressed onto existing without cleaning because it looked good, right? So just inspect your copper on service work just in case, because you just don't know who that last person was. I just ripped out a shower valve that they didn't wipe off the excess flux. You just see the green just running down the tubing, right? And there's no way I'm cutting that copper and pressing right onto that old existing flux, right? It's all, you know, it's acid and it's dirty and greasy. So I clean that up. So tips and tricks there as well. But if you need any support as well and you need those manuals, contact your local Viega district manager, technical manager, regional manager. We have a lot of feet in the street. Contact tech support. Contact our tech support team at techsupport@viega.us. And Bo, do not ask me the number. I still don't remember numbers, man. I got to speed that. I don't remember numbers anymore. It's not like back in the day we had to call your mom from a payphone and be like, and remember their house number, remember your friend's number and your friend's mom's number, all this stuff. Nope. Everything's on speed dial now, so don't ask me the number. but look it up on Viega.us. The numbers are there for customer service, tech support, and all that. And we have all the literature right online that you can download right to your cell phone and tablet as well, right to files. So everything's there for you.
Troy and I could look it up on our cell phones, but we're really busy using our cell phones to do this webinar. So can't do that. It would require technology.
Yeah, that require me touching this thing, and then I'm going to mess it up.
Awesome. So actually, someone actually threw in a really good tip using a round dauber rather than a brush for flux. And he's saying, so Peter Samio says it makes it much faster. And Peter, shout out to you, man. That's a great suggestion. And daubers work really well. Actually, if I'm doing a lot of production, I actually put flux on a sponge that I've stapled to a board that's clamped to my tri-stand. And I just roll the fitting, or not the fitting, the tube end in the sponge and just keep putting the flux on the sponge, and you get a nice thin film. One of the reasons I had a flux run also was because I still had too much flux in that fitting socket. And if it runs out, that's a good thing. You don't want the flux going into the fitting. You want it to come out. The solder's displacing it, but sometimes it runs down the pipe or the tube. And then of course, you know, leaves that nice clean trail, which the solder wants to stick to. So really great suggestion to use a dauber there. Definitely a faster way to do it and a good way to get really good coverage. Plus, you don't get all those silly bristles in your flux, which is a good thing. So great point there. So we're coming near the end here.
That is funny.
Nope, sorry, Troy, go ahead.
Oh no, you were just talking about the bristles into the flux. That drives me nuts every time because then they get everywhere and I'm burning them up as I'm soldering. Drives nuts. I love the idea of a dauber. Never even crossed my mind. That's great. We used to use big paintbrushes when we did PVC, like 24-inch PVC and stuff like that. So man, I don't know why I never thought of a dauber. Great point. I'm writing that down.
See, you learn something new every day. It's a beautiful thing. So we're coming near the end here. Nobody shouted out what the third tank designation was. We heard I got, MC, I got B, but nobody chucked out the P tank. Troy, you know what it is? Do I have to send you the T-shirt? Maybe we could send Ricky or Pete the T-shirt. He answer it, but I'd have to cut the sleeves off because you only got 66% of the answer.
I gotta be honest with you. I don't know the P tank. MCB, those kind of things, yes. But yeah, I don't know the P tank, to be honest with you. That's not.
Well, I'm still gonna chuck Ricky the T-shirt for Pete's sake. Oh, that just rolled right off the tongue there. But I'll shout it out here since no one seems to be calling it out. I'm just gonna check Q&A, but no one ever said what it was. So it's motor car, bus, and plane. Those are your 3 tank designations from the old days, back when we had acetylene lights on our vehicles.
That's actually a really good, cool fun fact. That's awesome, man. So, hey, are you ready for some pressing? So we're almost running out of time here. All right,
yes,
perfect.
Sir.
So you got the timer right there. I got my press tool here. I've been keeping in the shade because it is a hydraulic press tool. So the temperature range for these are 15 degrees to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, it's not 122 degrees out, but when it bakes in the sun, if you're on a rooftop or something like that, and you just lay this on that roof, that hot rubber roof, and the sun's beating in, it can actually heat up. And there'll be a light on here that indicates the temperature. But so let's see. I got my fittings. I have my tubing. I got my marker to mark my insertion depth. And, of course, even with ProPress, it's good to ream and deburr your copper. So it looks like I have everything I need. Bo, you count it down.
You want to set anything up in the tri-stand, or are you ready to go?
No, I got a piece of tubing right here, just like the solder. I set up just like the soldering application, so it was fair.
Good deal. Good deal. All right. So Troy, when you're ready, I'm going to start the timer. Just give me 1 sec. Ready, set, go.
Got to make sure to mark that insertion depth, right? That's one thing you don't need to do with solder, even though some people probably should, because I've come across some really horrible insertion depths on solder joints. Terrible integrity. There's one. Two. Three. Done.
1 minute and 5 seconds, Troy.
I almost ripped it right out of the pipe stand, too. I was trying to cook it along. So 1 minute and 5 seconds. And you said the 3/4 inch soldering was what? 2 minutes and something, or 3 minutes? 255. So there we go. I mean, clearly gonna shave down on my labor savings. It is a cleaner job. I don't have to worry about wiping the assembly down because there's no flux. I don't have to worry about burn permits and firewatch and popping a torch. The completely safe application all the way around.
Yep, and about the same amount of time if you'd pressed up 2-inch, would have taken about the same. Maybe a little bit longer to deburr the pipe, or the tube, but to press it up about the same amount of time.
Yep. And that's the thing with the consistency between that 1/2 to 2, in that kit. And like I said, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because I'm not sandclothing or cleaning the tubing, but I am reaming and deburring. You're right. Sometimes the deburring will slow you down, but it adds fractions of a second, right, onto your time. So you are going to, be saving, 50%, 60%, 30%. I mean, it will vary, especially if you're a novice at press or, you've been using press for a very long time. Like any new technology, if you just start out using it, you might break even because you're maybe a little more cautious. You're taking a little more steps that maybe you don't need to because, it's their first time doing something. But once you start getting that rhythm with press, you're going to see that you're just going to just blaze through projects, jobs, everything, and save that time. And you know what? Safety too. The overall I like about it is the safety aspect, really, at the end of the day. Because sometimes I'm bidding the job anyways. So you know what? I might just take my time. Maybe I have an extra day to kick back and play on the golf course or something, or drink a beer, hang out. If I'm bidding. But you know what? Some jobs too that I used to do, like a supermarket, if you got done quicker, you got a bonus check. So, look at those things too, right? If you can get that job ahead of schedule, you deliver that job sooner, you might actually get a bonus check for that. So.
Yeah, really good point, Troy. I worked a lot of late nights as a contractor. One thing I love to tell people is, you know what? If I get you home to your kid's soccer game, we all win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, definitely work some late nights as well. Things that you run into, problems you're running into, right? You've said this before, on other episodes and other, online training that we have. But, if I have to, I can't shut a system down, right? Soldering now takes even longer. It's more of a hassle. Yeah, there's jet sweats, there's the bread technique, there's all these different things you can do, but it still slows you down. You're running an issue. ProPress, not going to slow you down. Partially, pressurized system, fully pressurized system. Jam that fitting home, make that press, and you're good to go. So, again, it's just a better system overall for efficiency and safety.
Yes, sir. I agree. So, Troy, can you just recap the ProPress Challenge one more time before we wrap up today?
Absolutely. So the ProPress Challenge. So here we go. So follow us on all of our Viega LLC social media platforms. You have Instagram, you have Facebook, LinkedIn, all that stuff, right? So look for Viega LLC. We even have a Viega LLC YouTube channel. So look for all that. But what I am challenging everybody today is we're challenging on a 3/4 assembly that I did. Not the 2-inch. If somebody wants to do the 2-inch for fun and see if they can beat Bo, that'll be creative and awesome. But we're looking to keep it consistent because, there we go. We're looking to keep it consistent because, we're going to judge you on your speed. We're going to judge you on your technique and your creativity. So 3/4 inch assembly, 2 3/4 inch fittings, coupling, 90s, 45s, whatever it may be. And you submit your video to Viega LLC, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Bo, myself, marketing, and our teams are going to judge those. And the winner is going to get a nice box of Viega gifts, right? And it's going to be I don't have a list of what you're getting because we got a bunch of stuff in Colorado that we're looking at. Maybe some t-shirts, some gloves, some koozies, who knows? I mean, we got a bunch of little swag, some fun stuff that we're going to send your way as a winner of this competition. So that is the ProPress Challenge. I hope you accept. You can even follow me on Instagram as well, at Trainer Troy. So follow Viega LLC and follow at Trainer Troy on Instagram. So, and we're going to post some videos too, in case you forget after the show on what that challenge is. We're going to be posting some videos of the challenge on all of our platforms. So stay tuned for that as well, just in case somebody missed this episode. Or I talk too fast, one of the two.
Yeah, there might have been some Viega Eagle t-shirts that made a temporary resurgence into existence. There might be a secret stash out there. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. Those are the best. We get more comments on those shirts. And, I want to thank Bo for bringing those back, even though we had some people butting heads on that one, right? But, yeah, well, we asked for forgiveness, right? Not permission. So, yeah, the winner,
sometimes.
Hopefully. That's awesome, man. Now, so any more questions or anything, Bo? We got anything on the docket, or?
I think we got everything covered. I just will tell you, if you've got ideas for a future episode of Tech Talk Live, then please email us at techtalk@viega.us. Again, it's techtalk@viega.us. If you have questions after the show, email us at techtalk@viega.us, and we will be happy to answer them for you. We both scan those questions all the time. We're happy to get our answers out. We'll send you technical documentation. If we don't know the answer, we know who to ask, and we're really happy to have you support our programming. And last thing is, if you haven't signed up for the Viega Rewards program, do so. VegaRewards.us. Again, VegaRewards.us. Sign up, buy Viega, get Viega, all kinds of cool Viega swag, tools, and most importantly, training trips.
All right, man. That's awesome. Thank you very much, everyone. This is a great, fun episode. I love it. I'll have to think of another challenge, Bo, that we can throw out at the gauntlet here. I like the challenge episodes. Let's keep them rolling.
Much respect to you, Troy. You got mad skills. Thank you for the challenge.
Thank you, Bo. Take care, buddy.
See ya.